Okay, everybody, let's look at what we will do for this chapter. Assume you have 5 types of fruit and you want to get the price of each type, the quantity the user purchased for that type. You will calculate the cost of each type of fruit and the total cost. Then you will display the information. And this is the problem we are trying to solve. And I have broken it down into smaller subtasks. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to define a function that asks the user to enter the price of each fruit into an array. So if you look at the second one, declare and define a function that will ask the user to enter the quantity for each type of fruit the user bought. So actually, if you look at item 1 and item 2, they are both asking the user to enter a number for an array. So we can actually define just one function. We do not need to define two. So let's go to our Visual Studio. I have written this skeleton code, and let's do that. And so in our main program, main function, let's define an array. Let's just use 5, right? Since we know it's 5, why don't we declare a constant 5 number? Let's call it number and make it 5, right? And so here we need the 5 fruit names. So string fruit name and number. I have the cap on. Okay, so number. And we know the fruit names, so let's give it the names. How about that? This is called the initializer list. So we have apple, we have orange, maybe blueberry, and okay, I wrote these 5 names, and notice that this is a string. So whenever you use a string, remember you need to include string, that header file, that library file. So we need to include string here. Okay, now let's look at, we should declare and define a function that asks the user to enter input. So let's declare that function void. Because we are getting the input for the array, we do not need to return anything. How about we give it a generic name, get input, and we need an array. If we want to make it very general so that we can use it to get the price as well as the quantity, we, instead of using an int, we use a double. This way it's much more flexible. Double. So we just call it input, and it's an array. And remember, whenever you get input, whenever you pass an array, what else do you need to pass? You always need to pass the size, the number of element of the array. And at the same time, we also want to pass the names so that we can tell the user to enter the, the price or the quantity for apple or orange. So let's pass the names also. The names are strings. So this way, we can use this one function to do multiple things. And let's define this function. Okay. So we use a for loop, of course. Okay, I wrote this function. We use a for loop because our number of element is stored in size. We put size here and print out the fruit name and then get the input from the user. Okay, and afterwards we print out an end of line character. So let's call this a function. To call this function, what do we need? We need a double array, we need the string name, we need the size. Okay, so we already have the string fruit name, we just need to declare a double array. So double, let's do the quantity first. Quantity, and we want to use number, right? That's the 5 there. So we declare that. And now let's call this function. Before we call, we just say, what are we doing? We are asking the user to enter the number of the quantity they purchased for each type. Okay, so I have this direction. Please enter the quantity you purchased for each type of fruit. And by the way, I also want to show you, you can actually right-click on this file name here and go to rename. And I'm going to call it array practice. So that's how you can rename your file, actually. Okay, so we have all this. Now we can call the function get input, and this function needs a double array, and we do have one, which is quantity. And remember, when you call the function, you just need to give it the array name, no square brackets. And we also need name. We have one, fruit names, and we also have the size, which is number, the constant. Okay, let's run this program. Okay, when I run, it looks like this. Obviously, we want to go to the next line after each type of fruit. Because I have apple here, it's not aligned. So we can change that. Please enter the quantity you purchased for each type of fruit. And then let's give it a new line character. This way, it will go to the next line, and it looks much better. Okay, so we did that. We get the quantity, and now let's get the price. Please enter the price, right? You paid for each type of fruit. Okay, and we can call the same function. I'm just copying and pasting. We call the same function. Here, instead of using quantity, we need the price array, which we do not have. So let's declare a double price. And we use exactly the same number. And here we can use price. And we can run this now. And this is what we see. So apple, how much did I buy? 4.5 pounds maybe. Okay, I'm just entering random numbers. And please enter the price you paid for each type of fruit. And this is, once again, I'm just entering random numbers just to make sure it works. And you can see it does work. Okay, now let's see what else we need to do. We finished 1, 2, and now let's do this, right? Declare and define a function that will calculate the cost for each fruit. Pass the quantity array, the price array, and array of double to store the cost for each fruit. So this is just giving you some hint as to how to do this. And which is good, we can define a function that accepts because when you calculate the cost of a fruit, you use the quantity you purchased, multiply that by the price. And so we need to store each cost into an array. Therefore, we should declare another array. So let's call it fruit cost, or individual fruit cost, however you want to name it, individual fruit cost. And that is 5 as well, right? We are working with these 5 types of fruits. And so let's define that function. the function this time is calculate fruit cost. Okay. And we need to know the quantity, right? We need to know the price for each type. We also want to store the calculated result into an array, which is the cost. And we always need to pass the size. Okay, so that is the function declaration. And now let me copy this and go down and define this function. I'm going to collapse this. So now let's define it. It's a pretty easy one. Once again, we use the for loop. Okay, so we have the for loop here, and we want to calculate the quantity, right? Quantity for each type. Multiply that by the price for each type, and we want to assign that to cost. So cost, that's how you do that. And we do not need to return anything because this array will be changed. It will store the cost. And that's it. Let's calculate. Let's call this function. So we will call fruit cost. And what do we need to pass? Remember, if you look at this, we need the quantity first, price, and then cost. Okay, so we will pass the quantity, price, and in our main function, we have individual fruit. It's a long name, fruit cost. And then we have a number. That's a global variable accessible by any function. So we are calling that function. Now, if you run the program, you won't see any change because it's calculated, but we are not displaying it yet. I want to stop here for this for this video. I don't want to make it too long, so I will continue in the next video.